Hi guys, Oleg Chernikovsky here, group leader for HME Group, broker with Remax West. I'm here with Ken Tucker, Dominion Lending. Ken, you're a broker for many years, 20 years.
Yeah, over 20 years, yeah.
20 years. And what's interesting is that when we first met, it was at the EO convention, and that's an entrepreneur organization, so that tells me you're a business owner.
Absolutely.
And what's interesting is that when the next time we met, we actually surprisingly met at the RAIN Real Estate Investment Network, going over the economic fundamentals and investing into Canada. So how long have you been an investor?
Over 20 years. And interesting story, how I got into mortgages. I was talking to my brother one day. He asked me, what do I know about mortgage brokers? And I was like, nothing, but I'm using one to buy investment property right now. I went and asked my broker a bunch of questions to find out more about it. I thought it was pretty interesting. And my brother and I did the course. He dropped out. 20 years later, here I'm still doing mortgages, loving it.
So you're still doing mortgages, you're still investing?
Absolutely.
I love your project with respect to your farm. I'd love to see how that turns out. That's the reason you're here, and we are having the corner, a program that is Ask an Expert. And the intention of it is to get people past the hype of the headlines. Because a lot of times what we're finding is that people are more doing things from point of reaction versus logic and basically economic fundamentals, right? So what I'd love to do is talk to you a little bit more as to what's happening in the market. One of the headlines we are seeing is that, from the news, is that investors are exiting the market due to the increasing interest rates. What is your take on that?
I don't agree that investors are exiting the market because of the interest rates. I think the reality is that true investors are always looking for good opportunities, and they're actually doubling down right now because more opportunities are becoming available. What's actually happening is a lot of the speculators are actually getting scared and leaving, but true investors are actually doubling down. It's even similar, like they talk about homeowners not buying property. It is a little more challenging right now, that is a reality, but the reality is that people are still purchasing homes, and people have always purchased homes, they'll always purchase homes.
No, I totally agree with you. It's interesting. When I saw the headline, my thought was, well, wait a second. When January to March or to April, when the interest rates were low, we weren't buying any properties. Why? Well, because there was very little opportunity.
Yeah.
There was really nothing to choose from, and anything that was out there, you had to offer, $100,000, $200,000 over the market value. So as an investor, why would I invest?
So do you think there's a lot more opportunities right now?
You know what? Based on what I've been telling all my clients, I'm saying, guys, let's wait till May, June, July, when we would see this seasonality bring in more listings and more auctions. Together with the coupling of the interest rates, you're seeing much more inventory. You're seeing properties that are staying on the market longer, which gives us the ability to choose from. And now we have choices. We have the ability to do our due diligence, and also with the rentals increasing, what you're seeing is that the ability to basically properties to cash flow all over again. Mm-hmm. So if I'm able to get positive cash flow and I have properties to choose from and acquire, why would I be exiting the market?
And I think that's the reality. That's why I said true investors are looking at the numbers. They're focused on the fundamentals. If the fundamentals work, they're going to invest.
Right. And when you say fundamentals, what are those? Because I know I've used that in my past shows. It's interesting that you're mentioning fundamentals. So what are
jobs? It's important to make sure that area that you're in have a good economical opportunities. So there are jobs there to sustain. There's transportation to be able to get to and from. There's just overall the property cash flow. I think there's something else that I'm not remembering right now. But for the most part, the property needs to be a property that is good not only in great times but also right now in a more challenging time. If you're buying when and the numbers work and it's a good investment, then you don't need to worry about what's going to happen in the future. It works right now. Rents usually tend to go up, not down. Just focus on getting a good property manager if you're not an expert, to make sure that you're getting the right tenants in.
No, you're absolutely right. It's we are talking about sustainability, and what are we talking about? It is the GDP for nationally as well as the local economy. There has to be enough businesses to sustain local growth. You need the transportation for people to they're basically traveling in and around the area. It's bringing people into the area. I think the other part is the supply of availability of rentals. Is there too much supply or short supply? But I think the other part is employment is a very important aspect. For us, is there going to be does the job is the area sponsor jobs, or do you have to exit to go somewhere else? So those are kind of when we look from a bigger perspective. I think that today what's interesting is this. Yes, we have the interest rates going up and affordability, but at the same time, the GDP, gross domestic product, is still in the positive. Our unemployment has been still the lowest it's ever been, right? There's actually a shortage of labor. There's a shortage of housing supply, and there's a growing population and a growing demand. If you put that all into the mix, I don't know, even with the recession, does that give you confidence as an investor that they should continue maybe considering investing into the right opportunities?
Well, one of the things you mentioned, that we met again at RAIN, and we had a conference on the weekend, which I thought was phenomenal. One of the speaker mentioned was that Canada is either the third or fourth producer of oil in the world. And because of our production of oil and demand for oil in the world, we're able to pretty much kind of buy ourselves out of any kind of challenges, because our GDP, as you mentioned, is still good. That's primarily because of oil subsidizing everything else. But it is a reality that we do have oil. We are exporting oil, and it does make our country very strong, and it helps us to weather the storms of whatever we may face.
No, makes sense. And I mean, there's other factors to our economy. Each city, each province has their own standards. Ontario, one of the biggest things is, we are one of the third largest provinces. And is the government projecting 400,000 new immigrants per year, right?
In Canada, yeah.
In Canada, we are going to be getting at least 1/3 of that.
Yeah, they say 130,000 or so expected to come just to Ontario.
And that's just people that are immigrating to Canada. That doesn't talk about immigration from other provinces as well.
Yeah, so migration from other provinces to Ontario.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, real estate rules is location, location, location. As we talked about, Canada may not be the best in the world, right? A lot of people, complain about Canada on a whole, but the reality is that there's not a lot of countries that give you the balance that Canada does in
Absolutely.
terms of safety, opportunity, and I think our economy may have a little bit of a challenge going forward, but it's nothing that we've not seen before. It's nothing we're not going to bounce back from. And one of the things like I know you're curious about is it a good time to buy real estate? My belief is always the best time to buy was 20 years ago. The next best time is right now. And I don't say that just because it's my industry, your industry, and we make money from this industry, but when you look traditionally, real estate has been a very solid investment. It's an investment because it's a necessity of life. People need shelter, and there's a shortage of shelter. You mentioned 400,000 new immigrants coming here every year. Those people have to live somewhere, and the reality is we cannot produce homes as fast as people are coming in. So when you're on the end of being the person to buy that home and to be able to offer a home to be rented out to someone else, it's a huge opportunity. And I think the government are actually trying. I'm not overly a fan of everything the government's doing, but you have to give them credit. They're trying to make it easier and more opportunities to have secondary suites. Make it a lot easier to be able to convert your existing property to facilitate housing for other people. They're really trying. There are challenges, but they're really trying to help to make things better. And I think that the opportunity is still very great.
It's interesting that you touched on opportunities. So a lot of people are, looking at there's two factors that we're hearing. One is the affordability, right? Because of the higher interest rates, people are being priced out of the market. And yet you're saying, well, we can probably look at continuing buying. So my question is, taking that into perspective from a point of a mortgage broker, what is the possible solutions in today's times for people to be able to fulfill their dream of home ownership or continue to invest?
There are two parts to that. There's home ownership and investing. I think the investing we already talked about. Investors have the resources. They're going to find ways to actually create an opportunity because it has been a great opportunity to get a good, solid return on money. Using leverage, right? It's been phenomenal. I'm not going to go too much into that. For home owners, I think that's where there's a little more of a challenge. We have to be realistic. Mm-hmm. It is tough, and it's tough for a lot of people. The reality is income, it's not going up the same way as the prices, the interest rates, everything like that. We are fortunate that prices have come down quite a bit on homes right now, so it does make it a little more affordable from a price standpoint. The cost is still high because interest rates are actually a lot higher. And it's not even as much the interest rates itself, because we've been here before with interest rates, having 4 or 5% interest rate, even 6% is not unusual. We've been here in my career. I've seen interest rates even 7%, and
I've seen
that's
it at
fine.
18 when I bought my first house, and I remember when it dropped to 12, and when it dropped to 8, I just thought it was a bargain.
See, I'm young. I've not lived that long.
I think I just dated myself, guys.
I'm just joking. Yeah, we're around the same age, but the reality is that it is a challenge. That is the reality, but there's an opportunity to be more creative.
Absolutely.
People have to unite their resources. So you have family members instead of siblings just buying their individual homes. Maybe an opportunity for them to actually have two families living together so that they can actually get in the market. Right? That's an opportunity that I think we may see more people taking advantage of. Right? People may buy rental properties or buy a unit that they can live in one unit and supplement their cost of living with a second unit. Mm-hmm. Right? You'd mentioned earlier, there's people may want to buy outside the area that they live in right now, right? So they go to a more rural area, especially a lot of people are working remotely, so they may actually go a little further out. They can still work remotely, but they can buy a home that's a little better priced. So I think the people who really want to own a home, they're going to find a way to actually, make the sacrifice. And I can remember buying my first home. It was definitely a sacrifice. And when I speak to people that are, I have clients that are 80, 90, and you ask them about buying their first home. It was a challenge then, right? You ask clients that are 70, 60, 50, no matter what age group, when people are buying their first home, it tends to be a challenge. Here's the thing. When you own a property, you will get in the property, you're going to do everything you can to make sure that you pay for it, right? Because it is a necessity of life. You have to have shelter. So you're going to do that. And long term, it's easier for you to trade up into something better versus, starting from scratch, 5-10 years down the road.
I think, I would agree with you. One of the challenges is people say, well, should I just wait? And one of the things that I've seen over the history is that if you wait, you're always trying to catch up. What you're catching up to the inflation, you're catching up to rising prices, you're catching up to many different things. You're catching up to life effects. And what's interesting is this, any client that I brought into a townhouse, it was easier for them to move into a detached or a semi-detached. But it's very difficult, when you're starting out to jump, and for very few, to jump in like right out of the gate into a fully detached home. So I think the idea is that we have to get used to be a progression. It's like it's not a race, it's not a sprint, it's a race, right? It's planning and building your lifestyle. I like
it's not a sprint, it's a marathon.
It's a marathon. See, I like that. I think the idea is this: is that I like what you said about this creative financing. It's about talking to your family, and that might have built up good equities, and maybe making them your joint venture partner, and then helping you buy property, and then later on working on an arrangement where they can get some money back or so on in a return. There's one option. Another option might be, like you said, is that people can move out of the area. What we've been doing is a lot of our clients is instead, because sometimes it's difficult to move out, because outside of work, there's also how we spend our time, where our friends are, where our family are. So one of the things we're also saying is that we can do something different. We can buy an investment property outside of the Toronto in an area at the price that you can afford that will give you positive cash flow of $300, $500, $700 per month, which does two things. You can either use that money to prepay the mortgage or pay down the mortgage, so you build a net equity. And this way, when the time is right, you can either sell the property, you can refinance the property, and buy a property in Toronto. Or you can use the positive cash flow to rent the place that you want, that works for you, and use the positive cash flow to pay down your living expenses. Either way, it supports your lifestyle and makes life easier.
Yeah, like I'm a big believer in do it now when you can, right? Don't wait, and find a creative solution to be able to get you in right now. It definitely helps, right? Because it's only going to get harder. People talked about they're going to wait before the interest rates were low for the prices to drop. Now prices are dropping. There's a complaint that the interest rate is too high, and there will always be a problem if you want to focus on the problem. If you want to focus on the solution, you'll find a solution. It may be a bit of a sacrifice, because at the end of the day, if it's really worth it, it's worth the sacrifice, right? That's something maybe a little challenging, stretch yourself a little more than you should, a little more, right? I don't believe in people going over their budget. And one thing I like about Canada is that if you qualify in our market in Canada, it means that you can afford that home, because we have very strict rules here.
Absolutely.
Right? The government is very strict, sometimes I think too strict, but the reality is they're strict. So if you can buy here, then the reality is you can afford it. It just means that you're probably going to have to make some amount of sacrifice to be able to carry it, but it absolutely will be worth it long term.
No, that's an interesting point. It's not, it is basically, sometimes it's adjusting your expectations for the purpose of achieving the dream. And I think one of the things that you said is correct. When there's a true desire, there's always a solution. And I think that's one thing I've seen. One of the things we learn at Rain is that, for everything there's a solution. There's always ability to invest. There's always opportunities that make you money. But the best part, what I love is this. You start, you may have no money and you have time, and we can still show you ways to find investments through joint venture partnerships, through creative financing and things like that, right? There's, you may have ability, you may have the investment money, but you may not be able to qualify for mortgages. There's still solutions for that. I think what's interesting is this: when there's a desire, there's a right strategy to achieving the goals that you're looking for. And I'm not talking about going out, playing outside of the rules or creating fraud, as some, We've seen that done in our industry, but more so like understanding the proper investment strategies. You're following the basic rules and being creative, finding the right partners and the right resources, which will enable you to achieve the dreams that you're looking for and have the future you want.
And that's what I like, when you say the word creative. A lot of people misunderstand that word. When you turn your brain off from finding an opportunity or solution, then you're just accepting. The word creative means try to find a solution that can get you to where you are. And as you know, we've mentioned a whole bunch of different things here today. Maybe now is not the time to actually live in a property because you can't afford it, but you may partner up with someone else to invest that money, right? In an investment property, creating a home for someone else, right? Until you can actually have a property you can live in yourself. But either way, people like yourself are great at helping clients, and thank you for having me here today. I really appreciate it.
It's been my pleasure. And guys, if you have any questions, give Ken a call. The number is at the bottom of the screen. He'll be happy to answer any questions you have regarding financing, but more so, they can prepare you for achieving your dreams from a point of arranging mortgages. If you're looking for creative open solutions for cash flowing opportunities, or getting yourself into your first property, or upsizing or downsizing, give my team a call, because it's more than just buying or selling. It's about building your lifestyle, and there are right solutions for doing so.